What part of your business is energizing you right now? Now, I have some insight because we've been talking for a while before we hit the record button today, but what's energizing you right now in your business?
I think the thing that excites me the most is our nitrogen business and our heavy equipment rental business. And it's not that a lot of people don't do that. There's a lot of companies. We have a lot of competition, but we want to. I want to improve upon it. I want to be the best at what we do. Our rental business, for example, we have to, because it's heavy equipment, we deliver it with our own trucks. And I instilled a new motto here recently. Just to give you an example, if the customer needs it there by 8 is late. We get there at 7:45, and so we're trying to make improvements. We're trying to make sure that our customers are, we like to under promise and over deliver. These are some of the things that we're trying to do to improve our lifestyle, to improve our revenue, and to grow our portfolio of book of business.
Welcome to the Systems Edge. This is where we talk to leaders about their systems behind their businesses, and we try to uncover those blind spots that can bring us all better ROI in our jobs. And today I have Joey Bushong from Alpha and Omega down Houston, Texas area. Welcome to the show, Joey.
Thanks, David. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Why don't you start by telling our audience a little bit about yourself and your background, maybe about your current role and what a normal day looks like for you. And maybe there's no normal. I know based on our personal conversation we were just having before.
There's no normal. I'm the vice president for Alpha and Omega. Our office near the Houston area. We have 5 locations in Texas, and we're a diversified company. We're in the oil field. We have a nitrogen business. We pump nitrogen for downhole applications. We also have a big rental business. We rental of heavy equipment. And then we're also a dealer sales portal for Lugong and multiple other brands. And this is all large, heavy equipment, industrial type stuff.
Okay, very cool. What part of your business is energizing you right now? Now, I have some insight because we've been talking for a while before we hit the record button today. But what's energizing you right now in your business?
Well, we're attempting to. I think the thing that excites me the most is our nitrogen business and our heavy equipment rental business. And it's not that a lot of people don't do that. There's a lot of companies. We have a lot of competition, but we want to. I want to improve upon it. I want to be the best at what we do. Our rental business, for example, we have to, because it's heavy equipment, we deliver it with our own trucks. And I instilled a new motto here recently. Just to give you an example, if the customer needs it there by 8 is late. We get there at 7:45, and so we're trying to make improvements. We're trying to make sure that our customers are, we like to under promise and over deliver. These are some of the things that we're trying to do to improve our lifestyle, to improve our revenue, and to grow our portfolio of book of business.
And this show's about operations, so let me jump into that, use that word in a question. What part of operations are you personally closest to?
Right now, I'm personally closest to our port services. I didn't mention that earlier, but our port services was pure accidental. Lugong is the second largest manufacturer of heavy equipment in the world, next to Cat. Some years they actually beat Cat. So Lugong came over. They started moving equipment into the United States here recently. They've been around since the 50s, but they're new to the United States. And we became a dealer, and they flew over from China, all the big wigs, the top brass. They showed up one day, and they were not happy with the condition that the equipment was in on our dealerships, and they were upset. And we said, whoa, this is how we received it. And they're like, oh, no way. So then that's how we were introduced to port services. They realized that the port services that they were frequently using was not taking care of their equipment and had very little care for them. So they came back to us and said, "Hey, would you guys like to be our port services?" So we came down, we purchased property, and we're all a bunch of oil field guys. Didn't know anything about logistics and shipping and ships and offloading ships and all that kind of stuff. We had no clue, no teaching, no training. And the only thing I love to brag about is Lugong came back a year later. They have four port services in America. They came back a year later, and they have port services all over the world. But they said we were the poster child for what every port service in the world should look like, and we did it with
That's
zero
great.
training, and we did that with the oil field mentality. That oil field mentality is we work 24/7 till the job is done. Take care of your customers, make it happen. Uh, we would shock Lugong. They'd have a ship come in 2 o'clock in the morning. Our team was there getting it unloaded, and they were like, "Y'all will do that tonight? It's here, isn't it?" You know, they couldn't believe it, and so we just made it happen, which would save them a lot of money on having to pay overages and things like that. And so we did it. We did that kind of stuff, and it worked out really good. But yeah, that's been a fun ride doing that.
That's awesome. Well, what type of operations, go back to operations again, what type of key systems or platforms does your business rely on to make it sounds like you're really diversified too. I mean, you're in
We are.
ports and you're all over the place, but so you must have some really good systems or platforms they all have to talk to each other,
They're
but
probably not
what
high
type of
tech. I
systems are you
mean,
relying on? You
we
run it
use
all on an Excel spreadsheet?
yeah, no. We use some programs like Visibility, uh, uh, Visibility. We of course QuickBooks, and then and we also have some CRM programs through our QuickBooks, through Visibility, through Zoom. What's the other one? You're you just had to do that to me. You know I'm 61 years old, and you're going to ask me about programs. I'm looking through Zoho. We use Zoho apps and things of that nature. Um, we tried another program here recently. Weren't happy with it. We were actually going to move everything from Visibility to another program. Can't think of the name of it at the moment, but we tried it for several weeks. The man hours that it was going to take to learn it and to move everything was unbearable, especially under our current circumstances. And so I nixed that idea and we went back to Visibility.
Those systems, they work well together? They talk well together?
Uh, they work well when they're applied and used. You've got some people in the company that absolutely can't work without them, and then you've got some people that want to dodge the system and they want to get their information the old fashioned way and drag out time, and they don't understand. They can't grasp the fact of how it's right here at your fingertips. Why are you calling me? You don't need to call me. You don't need to call the girls in the office. You have it. I've already provided this information to you. We've got some old timers in our sales force. You know where we're at. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a but
I
yeah,
do, I
if
do.
you can get everybody
It's
on
getting
board,
people to adopt systems. Yeah.
my
Yeah,
favorite
getting people to
programs.
adopt systems is challenging.
That's right. My favorite programs are the CRMs. CRMs are a failure worldwide with every company because they are not used correctly. They're not held accountable, and they're all a bunch of lies. Take me to any company and show me your CRM. In 10 minutes, I'll prove to you most of it's lies. And the reason why it's lies is because salesmen are forced to lie to keep their jobs. And but the CRM is a strategic selling tool, and if it's used correctly, I can make any company rich. I know that's a bold statement, but if the CRM is used correctly, I can make a company rich through the Miller Hyman strategic selling method that I am a firm believer in. Next to the Bible, that's the strongest book in my portfolio. And I would recommend anyone to read that book, Strategic Selling. Because it works. I'm ashamed to admit it. I've been in sales my whole life. I didn't apply it till I was in my early 50s. I'm 61 now. Once I applied it, and I'm talking really applied it and applied myself to using it, I was amazed at the results. I was amazed at the results. I'll give you one
So you're
example for your
obviously, yeah, go for it. I was about to ask you that.
I'll give you an example for your customer your watchers. I went to work for Air Products, worldwide company, and I told them in the interview process that I cannot approach CUD. CUD, CUDD. CUD is a big worldwide oil field company. But I said I can't go in there and ask for their business because they literally hate my guts. And and they said, okay, we understand. I said, you can send anybody else. I said, I can go talk to anybody, but I can't go talk to CUD. 2 weeks after they hired me, they dragged me in the office and tell me we got to have CUD. I said, guys, I mean, I was red faced. This is embarrassing. I can't do it. And I'll for your listeners, I'll tell you, I'll tell them myself. CUD laid me off 2 days before Christmas. They laid off a bunch of people, but they had a mass layoff. They laid me off 2 days before Christmas with 10 million in the bank. All the debts were paid during COVID, and I had $2 million worth of work starting 4 weeks later. I sent that $4 million worth of work to a competitor, but you know how when you leave a big company, they immediately turn off your emails? They forgot to turn mine off, and I had 3 days to stew. So I fired off letters to the president, the vice president, the CEO, anybody that I could wring through the dirt. I did it out of anger, out of emotion, not thinking. Uh, and so I burned some serious bridges. Now they tell me to go to CUD and get their business. Well, you already know that's not going to happen. So I thought about it for days and days and days. I drove to the CUD corporate office one day, sat in the parking lot for an hour. I couldn't do it. I drove off. The next day, my boss calls me and asks me about CUD. Oh my gosh. So I drive over to CUD. I sit in the parking lot for 10 minutes. I take a deep breath and I walk inside. The girl at the front desk knows me, of course. And what are you doing here? I need to speak to Tony. And she was like, ha. She calls Tony. She said, hey, Joey Bushong's up front. Would like to see you. Long pause. And he says, come on back. So I went back and he was ready to lay into me. And I walked in there with my hat in my hand and I said, Tony, I left here very angry, very distraught. And I said, I burned a lot of bridges on that email and you've never done business with Air Products, but I'm here to ask for that business and I'm here to take care of you. And I said, there's two ways you can look at this. I need you to do business through me. You don't have to do business with me. You don't like Air Products. I already know this because you've never done business with them. You certainly don't like me now, but you do know me and you do know how I take care of my customers. And I will commit to giving you that same treatment that I have always given our customers when I worked for you here at CUD. So if you will entrust me with your business, first off, I'm going to give you the best price of nitrogen you've ever had in the history of CUD. I'm going to give you sole first choice to all the nitrogen in our tanks in the plant. So that means I'm going to hold nitrogen for you even when other people want it. And I'm going to make sure that you have access to the plant 24/7, 7 days a week. And he looked at me and he said, bring me a contract. And that was
Wow.
it. Now, now
That's great.
the strategic selling in that was knowing and of course I had worked there, but knowing who the decision maker was, knowing how where he was located, and then coming up with a plan of action. That plan of action could have went south. The man could have cussed me out and pushed me out the door. He could have done that, but he didn't. Uh, but that was my plan. It took several weeks to come up with it, and it was the best that I had. There was no better plan but to go in and be honest and tell the truth and apply to the senses what he wants. What does he want? He wants good service. He wants a cheap price. He wants to make money. That's his job. I applied to all those things. I got the business. They are still the number one largest customer of Air Products in the Permian Basin today. The
That's
second one
awesome.
was Air Product. I'll only tell you two. The second one was Alpha and Omega. I walked into Alpha and Omega's office. Jackie Johnson is the CEO, and he said Air Product had an Air Product shirt on. He said Air Products. He said they're the number 2 largest nitrogen user in the Permian. He said, Joey, I'll never buy from Air Products. They never do what they say they're going to do. Price it. I never can get service. They don't answer the phone. Never going to happen. Okay. So I started having lunch with him once a month. 3 months later, we're in the truck one day, and I tell him the same thing. Jackie, you're not buying from Air Products. You're buying from me, and I'm going to take care of you. Anyway, a year later, I walk in one day to have lunch with him, our annual monthly luncheon, and he had the CEO, the COO, and the CFO in the conference room, and the girl said they're waiting for you in the conference room. I said, no, they're not waiting for me. I said, I'm just here to have lunch with Jackie. He said, no, sir, they're waiting for you in the conference room. So I walk in the conference room. I said, you guys looking for me? And they said, yeah, this is a job interview. Anyway, that's how they destroyed my life.
That's awesome.
So now I work
You
for
you
them.
you mentioned the CRM of all your systems was probably the most powerful, and I can see why. You're just telling some great stories there because it sounds like it gave you CRM, if I'm hearing you right, gives um, the ability, if it's well managed and well mined, find the decision makers and have a plan of action and so on. So if that's the most critical piece to your business systems, go into more detail on that and and maybe not some stories, but like how, maybe give advice to our listeners on like, or maybe haven't really thought about their CRM. What type of things should they look for? What should it look like? What would be
I'm
something that
looking
they
for
should
opportunity.
build
I'm
around
looking for I'm
to
looking for
really
opportunity in that CRM.
grab the ROI that's there? What's that?
I'm looking for opportunity in the CRM. I don't please don't tell me lies. Don't tell me, don't, you know, every company read their job profiles. Uh daily must put daily inputs into your CRM. Must do this. No, do not tell your salespeople that. I don't need to hear that you stopped by an office and visited with so and so for 30 minutes. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that you had lunch with so and so with company A, B, or C. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is I had lunch again, and I'm throwing in the again. I'm having lunch again on my expense report with my buddy over at this certain company. But today he said that his boss wants to buy 10 new forklifts because the rest of them are wore out and they're going to replace their forklift fleet in October. And today, this is August, so they're going to replace it in October. Now we've got a plan. This is what I want to see on the CRM. I also want to pick up on things on the CRM that the salesman missed. So give me real information. I talked to so and so today. He didn't show any interest in equipment. He didn't show any interest in our business model. Uh, all he wanted to talk about was the fact that they're going to add 3 million to their budget next year. Anyway, other than that, it was a dead conversation. No, 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 no. He said he's going to add $3 million to his budget. Get in here. Get in here. Let's talk. Let's strategize. What is the 3 million going to be allotted to? What? How much of that is new equipment? How much of that is rentals? How much of that is to employees? How much of that to their expansion? They can't expand without. And if they are going to expand, who's going to do the expansion? What construction company? We can go rent that construction company uh, bulldozers and wheel loaders and cement trucks. Come on, boys, think with me. You know, he just
Yeah,
gave you a
yeah,
green light to opportunity, and you completely missed it. This is what I want to see so that I can help them. And I'm making up stuff as I go, but here on this meeting, but I'm giving you examples of how this works. Uh, yeah,
sure,
so many
sure.
of them don't catch what the real meaning is, and they might miss opportunities. Yes, he needs a wheel loader, but he also said he needs a material handler, and we don't carry material handlers. I'll buy you a material handler to go with the wheel loader so we can make him a deal. Even if we break even on the material handler, we get all the business. We keep him in our book. We keep him in our control. You know, ask me questions. Can we buy him a material handler? Yes.
Do you make How do you make the CRM smarter? Like, in other words, I hear you describing this almost like a transcript of these conversations. It would be great to have notes and stuff, and maybe that's the answer, right? Put notes in the CRM. But how do you how would someone make the CRM smarter if it's such a critical piece to success? Like, how would you program that, right? Like, we're developers here. Like, are you describing maybe something where they put notes from their conversations and then someone maybe reviews those? How do you make it smarter?
You know what? And you just hit on something. The best CRM that we had was at Superior Energy, and we had one person who monitored the CRM all day, every day. Now that's manually, but we did have one person who monitored it, and by him monitoring, he would send information and key notes to management across the United States. Uh, and so, because you're right, I mean, my phone never stops ringing. I've got look at the text since we've been sitting here. You know, these guys are wanting information and wanting to talk to me. But So I don't have time to sit here and look at the CRM all day, right? But if I have someone monitoring it, and right now I don't have the capex to hire someone to monitor it, but if I have someone monitoring it and sending me an alert when pertinent information comes across, you're absolutely correct. That could be a valuable tool. It could be, or
Yeah, and now, and we go ahead.
you go ahead. No,
I was just going to say
you're on the
AI
right
is
track. Or
starting to.
you create a CRM program that does monitor it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
picks
they
up
got
on that
the
key
AI now
information.
that's sort of summarizing conversations as it is. And I know salesmen now, my son-in-law is one for a company that forces is the negative side of what you described in CRM, just has to get through his 50 calls a day and he's just going through the rote process. But I bought him a thing he could wear that in his meetings that would record the conversations, summarize the conversations, and at the end of the day, so there's these tools that are, and we're always trying to help businesses create these tools. And so I'm fascinated when you said CRM to being the most critical to to anyone's business, let alone how do we make that better? What would people be looking for? What should they look for if they're going to try to buy or find a CRM? And it sounds like, we found a few little nuggets there.
Well,
Anything else you would add to that
CRM,
they
like
insight?
if you actually say what's the name, what's the company name of CRM that's in the stock market? Uh, they're the biggest.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
who is
I
that?
know Salesforce is the biggest one.
Salesforce. So Salesforce is the biggest. Salesforce, what are they? 100,000 a year for most companies. It's ridiculous amount of
Yeah.
money.
Minimum
Uh,
10 grand to have someone fly in and train you just to use the basics. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. And Salesforce is very successful. I think their stock price $325 a share right now. They're very successful. You don't need that. You don't need it. You need something much simpler, and it needs to have the only thing I would like to see on a CRM that you never see. I call it the blue sheet. The blue sheet came from strategic selling, and and the reason why it's called a blue sheet because it was literally blue. But the blue sheet is actually a 50-year-old CRM on paper. Okay, so it has, and you can set it up how you want to, but on the left side it would have who are your prime targets for the company. Who's the decision makers. So here's the decision maker. How do you rate him? To the right? Do you rate him one through 10? 10 being he's on board with you. He already knows you. You have a relationship. He likes your product. He likes your pricing. That would be 10. One would be maybe we've shaken hands once or we passed in the hall. So who's next? Next is his someone underneath him who could be a coach. Who's underneath him that's a coach. Sometimes you've got to work your way up to get into the company, especially with the large companies. I can't just walk straight into the CEO's office. So I'm working with VPs, presidents, management until each one of them can get me to the next one. So I've got to work with these coaches to get to the top, uh, and I'm rating them all the way. And then I also rate the company. I rate the company on their buying power. I rate them on their profits and their growth and where they're going. So you're rating all these things on your sheet, and you can look at this and it's a blueprint, it's a map. Maybe that's why it was the blue sheets, because it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint onto what you've got to work with. And if somewhere in there You see that the CEO has been buying from his brother-in-law for 37 years and they have contracts for the next 20 years. You need to stop wasting your time and go find a customer that's going to work with you. It doesn't hurt to check back in. The brother-in-law may cheat on his wife and they get divorced and now he's out of the family and there may be an opening. I understand that, but it's not going to happen today. Okay. So until that happens, let's be realistic. Let's go find a viable potential new client, uh, someone that we can get on board. Or the company's broke. They filed bankruptcy 2 years ago. Their cash flow is minimum. They have no capex. They have no credit. Again, let's go find a viable client that can purchase today. Stop wasting your time. It will tell you
Yeah.
what to do. It will tell you what to do. When you fill everything out,
Yeah.
you ask yourself the question, what's my next step? I need to have lunch with this guy right
Yeah.
here, or I need to meet with him.
Yeah.
So you put that on their to-do list at the bottom of your CRM. I need to have lunch with so and so. As a sales manager, next week, David, did you have lunch with Bob? I called him twice. He never answered the phone. I left him a voicemail. Found out his kid was sick. He was off work for 3 days. Okay, Monday morning, let's get back on the horn. Let's get David a lunch meeting, or let's go meet him in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Next week,
What you're
did you see
describing to
David?
me, we used to call metadata,
Yeah,
where you're using your brain to think outside the box, to look at the big picture, zooming out, and then trying to piece it together. AI is kind of trying to do that. And by the way, I'll just throw this out there for our audience and to you if you haven't heard of them. I use something that's pretty close to that. It's the best one I found in years, called onepagecrm.com. And it's all about it. If you look at that, you'll see it has a lot of what you're describing and it pieces it together accordingly. But I do want to move on a little bit. I want to stay a little bit on the CRM, but you mentioned QuickBooks, Zoho, Visibility, CRM system. Do those systems need to talk to each other? Like, are you plugging some of the, I mean, especially in your role? I mean, do you use a dashboard? How do you take and manage all of that, including the CRM? Are you just logging into separate business, separate softwares?
logging
Zoho,
in.
I know, is partly,
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
because
I
Zoho
like to
usually
log in and
tries to
glance
pull
through it.
things together.
I want to log in and glance through it.
Mhm.
But I'm also, unlike a lot of people, I'm very interactive. I try to manage my time. I'll go to lunch here in a little bit, and the moment that I get in my car, I'm on the phone calling salespeople. So I will talk to them on the way to lunch. When I get back in the car, I talk to them on the way back. So I utilize that time to find out what's going on during the day, what's kept happening. Um, and so yeah, I like to interact, and as small as I have made us over the past 4 months, 6 months, um, it's a little easier to interact. Before, when we had 25 salespeople, that was almost impossible, and I really relied heavily on the CRM to get a gist. I never really believed it, but I got a gist of what was going on and what was happening. Uh, and the only reason I didn't believe it is because that was our fault. You force salespeople to lie to keep their jobs. I've been in sales forever. It would be snowing, cold, call a customer, "Hey, dude, I'm not even going to be in the office today. I'm staying home with my kids. They're out of school. So do I tell my boss that I'm going to stay home and watch TV all day because my customers are not going to be in the office today? Of course not. I lie on the CRM, and you don't do that. Don't put people in a position to make them lie. I used to. I've ran several successful sales teams, and I did that. I used to tell them, if you'll just have lunch with one customer a day, I'm happy. And those guys would outsell all my competitors because that lunch would build a relationship. When you spend an hour and a half with a guy sitting at a table, you're going to talk about your hobbies, you're going to talk about your kids, you're going to talk about your wife. You're eventually going to open up, relax, and you're going to build a relationship. And when you build that relationship, and that's what business is based on. Once you have that relationship, normally you're going to build trust. And when you build trust, that's the guy you want to deal with. And so, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's easier ways to do it. But like I say, for a big
Yeah.
sales team, you need a CRM. You need to run it correctly. You need to monitor it. And you just had a great insight today.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to make that happen, but you're the software guy. Rock and roll.
There you go. There you go. In terms of the, if you had a dashboard where you could have all these types of things like at your fingertips, a CRM in one corner, and you could see some QuickBooks data stuff, would that make your job easier? I would
Well, yeah,
assume so. I mean, most people would. Obviously,
I'd be like a stockbroker at the New York Stock Exchange. Buy, buy, buy,
right,
sell,
right,
sell,
exactly.
sell. That's
Right,
what I'd be doing,
right,
and that's
right.
how I would play it. You're right. It would.
Yeah, yeah.
I would see that screen behind me. Can you see that? Uh, I'd have it
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
screen. I'd be watching it all day. You know it. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We
yeah.
build a lot of those systems. That's why I asked, because like that's probably the number one thing we hear is that I want data from here and here and here and here, and I want to have this. I like your analogy. I'm going to have to take and steal that. I want
Go
what you
ahead.
call
It's all
stock,
yours.
like a stockbroker.
Yeah, like a
There you
stockbroker.
go.
Buy, 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 sell, sell, sell. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would be a good
absolutely, and
one.
especially someone in your position. So, and on that note, what? Sorry, they're rolling stuff around in this big building we have
I
above us.
wondered what
So
that
there's
noise
background
was.
noise.
I thought you were next to a train
I know
station.
they've been doing construction above me. It's not helpful for the podcast studio, but you work with it. Um, you just roll with it, literally.
That's right.
Um, yeah. So if you had a dashboard, what would if you had the ability to poof, snap your fingers and you're all of a sudden staring at the big screen like a stockbroker, what types of things in your business would you want on there? What types of things would you want to see?
Something that no CRM has ever done and no one's ever asked for it
Okay.
is I want to see the customer that you're going to see before you go see them, not after. I don't want to hear about it after it's too late. I want to know before.
Okay.
Today I'm going I
Interesting.
just got a phone call from a multi-million dollar company and they asked me if I could be in the office at 2 o'clock. I'm heading that way. Great. Call me. Call me now. Let's talk about this. Who are you meeting with? What's his position? What's his title? Did they give you any inclination of what they want to discuss today? Do they want to rent equipment? Do they want to buy nitrogen? What do they want to do? Why do you think they want to see you? He didn't know. He just said he asked me if I could come by. Have you ever seen him before? Yeah, I saw him about a month ago. I was in his office. I left a card. Uh, okay, what did y'all talk about then? He asked me about bulldozers. He asked me if we had bulldozers. He asked me if we had dirt moving equipment. Okay, and where did that go? Well, I answered all of his questions, and that was kind of it, boss. And okay. Well, so that's probably what he wants to discuss today. Uh, and so, yeah, let's. I just noticed passing down the highway
Interesting.
the other day that right next door, they've got a big sign up. Looks like they're about to start construction. That may be their property. That may be what he's calling you about.
Yeah.
So be thinking about that. Remember, we've got the 850 dozer, we've got the 923, we've got this. I've got some that already beat the tariffs on. We can give him some good pricing. Let's get that in his head. Get him pumped. Pep rally. Let's pep rally this salesman on his way to the prospective client, and then hey, call me the minute you walk out the door. Let's talk. You
So if
know,
I'm hearing you right, in one part of the screen is a piece of your CRM that shows you as to be able to manage sales and coach your people. What would be another section or drop down or whatever? Would it be like I mean, something maybe? What types of QuickBooks information or do you tend to lean towards or feel like I'm always logging in to look at this?
well, information is powerful. So what information do I want? I want to know who my competitors are. I want to know who I'm competing against. I want to know how long they've been my competitor. I mean, in other words, has that competitor been in that business for the last 10 years, or are they new? Does that particular client go through vendors like candy? And if so, why? Why can't he stop on one? The more information that I can get, the better off we are, because I can compile all that information to come up with a strategic plan or a strategy on how we're going to uh, target them.
Yep. Gotcha. But in terms of like specifically QuickBooks, is there something you tend to go to? Is it inventory you're looking at, interest payments, are you banking? Do you pull reports from that? And the reason I'm kind of in my mind, I'm seeing the CRM and I'm seeing how obviously that would take up half the screen for you because
That's right.
that's you just said it. That's the big piece. And then over here, I'm just trying to picture out like how we would or if some of our listeners are listening, if they were going to try to build a dashboard, like what would, from
Well,
your wisdom and
it would be
perspective,
great to
what would
know
you,
if that company has a solid credit history, if they have borrowing power. These kind of things would be phenomenal. Have they ever bought from Mitsubishi? You know, almost every company in America that buys heavy equipment finances it through Mitsubishi. Is that information attainable? Uh, if I can see on there that they've already bought $6 million from Mitsubishi over the last 10 years, uh, my blood's going to start boiling. I'm going to get excited. You know,
sure. So what you're describing is information you probably don't have access to, but of the information you do have access to internally in terms of operations, like, um, it sounds like you could pull some of that from your CRM, just literally asking a query to the CRM, pull it in and show me this on a screen, and then QuickBooks, and then Zoho.
yep.
My
And
apologies.
you're
There's
right.
lots of
If
noise
all
going
that
on
was
here.
pulled together, that would be beneficial. It would
Very
be
powerful.
it
Sounds like
would
the
be
ROI would
beneficial.
be there for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So let me, as I wind things down here, because we've been on about 35 minutes now, let me just ask you this. In terms of operations, where you're at now, um, in general, I guess we could say in terms of your business systems, um, where do you want to go? Where do you want to turn, in terms of where you're at now, where do you see yourself in the future? Where do you want to go compared to the two?
Well, you know, it's personally, you know, I want to steer the ship. Uh, I want to steer the ship for an organization that cares about its people. That's extremely important to me. I've worked for too many worldwide companies that treat you as a number, and you know, and I want to know everybody's name. I do know everybody's name in our company. I shake hands with everybody in our company. I go see everybody. I make it a point to see them personally when I travel to our other offices. Uh, you know, I want to steer the ship. I want to encourage people. People have outside lives. A lot of people are hurting. A lot of people need help. Uh, I don't want their job to be a point of necessity because I've got to pay a bill. I want this job and whatever place that I'm running, I want them to feel like that they're comfortable here. That they and when I say comfortable, I mean they feel like they can come into my office and close the door and say, "Hey, I'm getting a divorce. Uh, I'm struggling right now." You know, I want to counsel those people. I want to help them. Uh, I'm tired of people hurting in the business world. We have so much pain. Uh, from our workers, from our people. I want to help those people so that I want to bring joy back into them. And the easiest way to say that is my motto is make lives better. If I can make my employees' lives better, they go home and they don't kick the dog, they don't yell at the kids, they kiss the wife, they make their families' lives better. They make my customers' lives better. If my customers are happier, their lives are better. And the same thing, and it just goes on and on and on. And we make lives better. We do that through service, we do that through integrity, we do that through doing the best we can and apologizing and being sincere when we make mistakes. And we're human and we do make mistakes and we do drop the ball. And when that happens, you own up to it, you make up for it, and you do the best you can.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really good segue. Um, and I appreciate your honesty today. Thank you. It's exactly what we want here. Pull back the curtain, talk to people about the real stuff, the real struggles, and how to win, and how to do that, like you said at the end, in a deep, even a deeper way. That's for sure. Thank you so much. These patterns you kind of uncovered, there's some good stuff there, some good nuggets
Well, I
for our
appreciate it, David.
listeners.
I've enjoyed it. First time I've ever been on a podcast, so you hold the record for that.
Wow.
And I appreciate your time, and I really enjoyed visiting with you. And you guys are smart, and you come up with something that'll help us uh, generate more revenue and bring in more clients. Let's get together and talk again. I saw that you and I linked up on
Yes,
LinkedIn today,
definitely.
so we can stay close.
Absolutely. Definitely. Thanks for being on the show.
Well,
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you so much.